Hello and welcome to City Corner. I'm your host, Todd Blackstock. On today's show, we have Stephanie McCreary. She's a director at Oasis, and she's here to talk about an important tutoring program. And later in the show, Dr. Ravi Johar from United Healthcare will be here to discuss men's health. It's very important. So stay with us on STL TV for City Corner coming up next. Our first guest today is the National Tutoring Director for Oasis and their intergenerational program. Right now, we'd like to welcome Stephanie McCreary to City Corner. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today. And let's get a little bit of background on Oasis before we start things off.
Well, Oasis is a program that was founded right here in St. Louis in 1982 by Marilyn Mann. Marilyn had found that the options for older adults as far as recreation to learning to being healthy were very limited, and she was very passionate about changing that. And what has grown is a program that holistically approaches healthy aging through lifelong learning, active engagement, and volunteerism. So we have helped over 500,000 people throughout our 40-year history.
So where is it based?
It's based in St. Louis, but it is a national program.
How many communities do you think it serves in the St. Louis and metropolitan region and nationally, if you know?
Well, we are growing within Missouri and Illinois, but we, I believe, serve over 33 communities.
33 communities. And I understand you reach how many hundreds of thousands of people this program reaches?
Yes, hundreds of thousands of people.
So let's talk about the intergenerational tutoring program, because that's really important. You're talking about different ages. So it seems to me like you're kind of pairing up some kids that, you know, maybe need some tutoring and help in the classroom with some older people that might have extra time on their hands.
Yes, so one of our, the parts of our threefold approach to healthy aging is volunteer engagement. And the biggest portion of that is our intergenerational tutoring program, in which caring older adults come in and work with a student throughout the school year. Now, this student isn't necessarily one that qualifies for services, but it is a child who is struggling to relearn to read. And they will work throughout the school year with them one-on-one, building literacy skills, but also there's a great mentoring piece that happens. The tutor becomes a caring friend, a listening ear. So a lot of students will start having improved attendance at school. They will start having more confidence in their ability to read, and they'll participate more in the classroom.
So I understand that right now there's going to be an opening for many tutors coming in, and you're looking to push some people into helping these kids out, because let's face it, you know, some of our schools aren't performing as well as we would like them to perform. And, you know, tell us a little bit about the program and recruiting right now.
Well, yes, so reading is not something that is just you're born with. The ability to read is you have to learn. And so there are so many kids that were affected very deeply by the pandemic. And not only that, it's a problem that knows no socio or economical barriers. So we need as many tutors as we can get. Our goal is 700 nationally, but I would love for us to break way through that to like over 1,000 new tutors. So
people that are watching the program right now, maybe you can let them know what school districts are involved in Missouri and Southern Illinois, and maybe, you know, point out some of them, because heck, if someone lives in St. Charles or somewhere in Illinois, they might want to help out.
Well, that's the wonderful thing about us being born in St. Louis, is that we have managed to get into most school districts. But ones that really need help, St. Charles, City of St. Charles School District, Bayless School District, Lindbergh, Hancock. If there is a school district in your neighborhood, chances are there's need for Oasis tutors there.
So you're on the board of a pretty important school district. Would you like to maybe give us a little bit of background on your educational background as well?
Well, yes. So basically, volunteerism has been a huge part of my life from a very early age on. And when a spot opened up on the Bayless Board of Education, I felt compelled to go in as someone who could not only use my volunteer engagement and community engagement background to really pull the community into the school, but also to support the staff and students of that school district. It's a very wonderful district, small but mighty is what we call it.
So you have, you mentioned St. Charles County.
Yes.
I'm sure the city of St. Louis, public schools, Hazelwood, Parkway.
We're in all of those.
So just if there's a school district in St. Louis, know that if you're considering wanting to volunteer, that there's probably one next to you or nearby. I understand that, you know, if you're a possible tutor, you can kind of pick and choose what school you may want to participate in and what hours of the day.
Well, yes, like I said, we are trying to keep older adults active and engaged, and we realize that this needs to be something that fits their schedule and their availability. So the tutor, once they are trained, can talk with the school of these are the days that I'm available, these are the times, and then they'll work together to find the right time to come in and tutor a student.
Sure. So how often will the volunteers meet with the students?
We ask for a commitment of one child for 1 hour per week for the duration of the school year, so 9 months.
So there's a 6-step approach to literacy.
Yes.
And maybe you could walk us through a few of those.
Yes, absolutely. So we train our tutors to walk through 6 individual steps. Most importantly, that they read with the child, that they talk with the child, and that they write with the child. The other parts of those engage are rereading the child's writing and going over what they've talked about. So we really try to give our tutors every tool we can for them to have a successful engagement with a child. So they'll start by reading, and then they'll talk, and then they'll write, and then they'll reread what they wrote. So the child really actively participates in the session, and at the end can see what they've done. And it's a great thing for the tutor to be able to hand the child this is what we did today, look how good you did.
Now, I know we've got some clips to show.
Our tutors really provide something that in the education world we can't provide. We don't have the time to give an hour one-on-one to a child every week like our Oasis volunteers do, and they care so much. They build those relationships with our kids, and they spend that quality time with them that really sparks their motivation for learning, and it gives them a reason for wanting to come to school and to do better.
We have seen great growth in our students' reading scores. The literacy development has been significant in relation to the kids who have participated in the Oasis Tutoring. And what's great about that is not only does it help us with the reading, but also it bridges over into all the other subject areas, and our students are excelling academically in large part because of the Oasis program.
Yeah, so what would you like to expound on with that video?
Well, I wanted to show just the impact that our tutors have on the school, but also just how easy we make it for someone to step into Oasis Tutoring and try it out. We really do work hard to support our tutors in every step, and we actually do offer continued professional development and education for our tutors on current educational topics that are applicable to the work that they do.
Now, is teaching experience required if you'd like to be a tutor?
We love having older ex-teachers come in and volunteer, but there is absolutely no reason that you have to be a prior educator to be a tutor. We welcome everybody.
So what do you think it is that, you know, benefits the younger students with the older tutors? You know, that's the intergenerational part.
Yes, and it is so important. What I really feel makes the biggest impact is the sharing of the stories. So you have an older adult telling their story to a child, and a child telling their story to an older adult. And through that comes connection and understanding. And I tell people all the time, I think our tutors are going to change the world because they are sharing their story with a younger person who can then pick up on that and take those things that they've learned and use them in the future.
So what are some of the benefits of the program, do you think?
Well, as a volunteer manager for over 10 years, I can tell you that volunteering not only helps someone feel a sense of purpose, but it also, volunteer engagement helps your health. It helps your mental well-being, your health, everything. So it's a very great thing to do.
So what percentage of the students have improved reading scores?
Oh, we are so excited that this was our first full year back with tutoring, and I can say that 97% of the students reported showed improvement.
After the pandemic, what was that like? Because so many students, you know, they had to wear masks at school, or they're doing, you know, they're learning from Zoom classes and things like that. I mean, let's face it, it's got to be much easier to study and learn in a classroom setting than when you're sitting there, you got your phone right there, and you got your TV and cartoons on and things like that.
Exactly. We were actually one of the few organizations that did not stop tutoring during the pandemic. We found virtual options such as our Postal Pal program and virtual tutoring via Zoom. But the comeback was very slow. Tutors were hesitant to walk right back into a building full of children, understandably. Their health is always a major concern for us. But this was the first year, the 2022-23 school year was the first year we really saw a mega return of our tutors, and they are coming in full force. We get inquiries about tutoring every day.
So what percentage of teachers reported improved confidence in their students and themselves?
98%
Wow.
of educators that work with Oasis Tutor say that it improves not only the child's performance in school, but also just brings a wonderful feeling to the whole school.
I'm sure that the tutors, they have a high percentage too of, feeling that they've added a purposeful element to their lives. It's like they have something to look forward to, in their later years.
Yes, it's definitely a reciprocal relationship. The children do so much for the older adult and vice versa that it's the easiest sell I have as far as a volunteer opportunity goes, because there is no bad that can come of it.
Now, do tutors provide guidance? Do they become friends with the students? And it seems like they would provide as good role models.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, that shared experience breeds so much connection between the two that there's just a natural leadership thing that the tutor takes on. And we are so proud of what our tutors do for students every day.
Well, let's give some statistics here. If someone was interested in tutoring, how can they sign up?
Well, they can go to oasisnet.org, or they can call 314-995-9506.
Now, it seems like there may be some school districts. It seems like we've pretty much got it covered, but I have a number here that if you want to participate in a school district, it's 314-862-2933, and that's extension 231.
Yes, that will take you to my co-director, Mary Click, and she is in charge of expanding our program beyond St. Louis.
Well, Stephanie, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we let you go? Because I know there's so much involved with
Yes.
the intergenerational tutoring.
This is the best time for a person to say, I want to be there for a child and I want to help them grow, but also that I would be remiss if I didn't share that there's so much more to Oasis. And you can find out all about our programming through oasisnet.org.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today on CityCorner, and good luck. And, folks, get out there, and if you're bored, you're around 60, 65, you're just retired, looking for something to do, maybe you could become a tutor and help the next generation. We're going to take a break now, but stay with us as we have Dr. Ravi Johar from United Healthcare joining us for the next segment. We'll be right back.
¿Qué color? Perfecto, amigo.
Gracias. Thank you.
What's wrong, amigo?
Donating to a pet's medical care is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
Scary that it can be put into anything and we can't even see it or notice it.
And welcome back to City Corner. I'm your host, Todd Blackstock. Joining us now in the second segment today is the Senior Director for United Healthcare, Dr. Ravi Johar. And Dr. Johar, thank you so much for joining us here. You serve as the Chief Medical Officer for Missouri and Southern Illinois. And it must be true that men face different risks than women when it comes to hot weather periods.
That's what they do. So thanks for having me, Todd. I appreciate it. Yeah, men are very different from women, as we all know. The biggest thing I think that we find as a difference is getting men in to see the doctor. We know that overall, only about 50% of men have it on their list that an annual visit is something they should do. And when you break that down over all ages, when we get down to the 20s and 30s, very few men will get in for an annual visit. And though we know those annual visits, overall, the numbers are way, way less than for female counterparts. But we know that getting into that annual visit is really important to screen for all the diseases that are, and many that become more common in men as they get older, as well as things like just getting your cholesterol and diabetes checked, just getting into your normal good health care. It's really important to get started with that.
Now, you've been in the St. Louis area for quite some time now with United
Practiced
Healthcare.
for about 25 years in St. Louis.
Which hospitals do you perform out of, and or
Sure.
is it just kind of a regional thing? You bounce around different ones around the area, or is there a specific one that
Well, I'm an OBGYN, so we had to be at all the hospitals, depending on where someone wanted to deliver. But at the end of my career, I was at Mercy. Mercy and SSM is where I spent the majority of my time.
I go to St. Luke's periodically, and my doctor is Dr. Wood, and he gets on me every time I go in there. He's like, Todd, you haven't been in here in 5.5 years now. And he's like, how you feeling? And I'm like, I'm doing pretty good, but I usually wait until I have a flare up to where I need it instead of going in there on a periodic basis. How important is it to do your periodic visits rather than waiting until you're sick and you're laying there, to try to get an appointment?
I think it's the single most important thing you can do for your health is to get in for those annual visits, because so much of medicine is preventative. If we can prevent you from getting sick, you can avoid some of those chronic problems that you have. Now, of course, everyone has acute injuries and acute problems that need to be treated, and you want to definitely be able to get in. But having that relationship with a physician before you have to go in for that problem is also really important, because they can know what you're doing. They can help you make lifestyle modifications maybe to prevent those chronic problems or those acute injuries from occurring. So I think the best thing you can do is get hooked up with a primary care physician. Now, a lot of men especially are saying they don't have time to get in for visits. And so there's some new programs and things that are out there. We learned a lot about virtual visits during COVID and being able to communicate via telehealth. But United Healthcare now has a new program for virtual PCP. So it's a primary care physician. So not only are you getting the virtual component of it, but you're actually having someone that can follow you over time and can do those screening tests and things. So that's something that men should really explore.
I'm not sure if there is a huge shortage in doctors for whatnot, but it seems like when people get sick and they call for an appointment, it could be 2 or 3 months till they get in. And by the time they get in, they're either, they've gotten over their cold or they might not need the medicines anymore. I almost compare it a little bit to getting a haircut. When you get a haircut, maybe you should get your next appointment when you're there. And when you get a doctor's visit, maybe you should get your next doctor's appointment before you leave that day.
Well, and I think that's really important for chronic diseases. If you have diabetes, you have hypertension, you have some heart disease, getting those things regularly scheduled out is really beneficial. And I think most doctors' offices are making a real effort to have scheduled visits and schedule those out over, exactly like you said, over time, a long time frame, but also have more spots for urgent cares or for problems that come in. And also be able to utilize the virtual care option for those urgent problems. Then maybe just if you have a cold, you can talk to a physician via telehealth, maybe even your own physician via telehealth, and be able to do that quickly and more efficiently.
So what health conditions do men experience at a higher rate than women?
Well,
And why? Yeah.
One of the biggest things a lot is cardiac disease. Men tend to have more cardiac problems than women. There's a number of different types of cardiac problems. In the news lately, we've had a lot of things with cardiac arrest, like some of the basketball players and things have had, or football players. But there's also the bigger one, which is the coronary artery disease, which is long-term, and that's where that causes heart attacks because of plaques and things of that sort. And men tend to have more problems than women for that. A lot of it is based on lifestyle, stress, things of that sort. Diet is a major part of
I'm
lifestyle.
thinking about a big ribeye right now, and should I have that tonight? Because I know there's a lot of fat and marbling in it.
Well, having it occasionally is a great thing to do. You just need to do the rest of the lifestyle things too. Get some exercise, getting out there, not eating that constantly, trying to see what else you can do. And that's where your physician can really help you.
I guess it's kind of like you have to do things in moderation.
Absolutely.
If you want to, have a glass of wine with your steak, you don't want to have steak and pizza every night of the week. You kind of want to break it up into maybe fish one day, chicken, make sure you have lots of vegetables.
Lots of options, absolutely.
What about the common cancers in men? What are some of the most common ones that, affect us?
Sure, the ones the men are more prone to are things like lung cancer, colorectal cancer is a big one. And then the ones that are specific to men are prostate and testicular cancers. So those are ones that are all that can be screened for. And so that's why it's really important to get in with a physician so you can screen for all those things. And those become more common with age. So for men to get into a good regimen of getting that checked, getting in for a digital prostate exam, things of that sort, is really an important thing they can do for their health.
What about kidney stones? Is that a sign of something? Are kidney stones preventative? Because from what I know, they just kind of appear and happen.
Great question. Kidney stones are actually much more common in men than in women. So that's something that a lot of people aren't aware of.
What causes them?
Kidney stones are caused usually by a buildup of different chemicals in the kidney that aren't being excreted. Usually calcium is one of the big ones, but there can be other ones in there. And a lot of that, again, is caused by diet and lifestyle. There are some folks with kidney stones that it's not that way, but that can be screened and checked for. But the most common ones are ones that you can modify by your diet and your lifestyle.
And how about some of the best activities? Because people can walk, they can do certain things, but what are some of the best sports or activities men can do to maintain a healthy lifestyle? Well,
getting out and exercising is something that all ages and all sexes can do, and it's very beneficial. For men, the recommendation is that they get about 150 minutes of moderate to light exercise per week. So that's maybe about 30 minutes a day. Now that can include things like walking, playing a round of golf, swimming, kayaking, even pickleball. Anything like that would be great to do that for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. You can also do 75 minutes a week of high intensity exercise. Now that may be playing a really vigorous round of tennis or other things that are very vigorous exercise. But a combination of those two is what men need. And just the simple things like just getting out and doing some hobbies, that would be great. If you get on a golf course, walk instead of riding a cart. Things of that sort would be great.
That's amazing. I'm thinking, when I go back to the gym after I feel like I'm out of shape, sometimes I push it a little bit too hard, and I end up either hurting myself or getting sick. And I think it's important that we should stress that if you're complacent for a period of time, when you get back into the routine, you might not want to go full bore right off the bat.
Absolutely. I think that going back to your moderation comment, that's the same sort of thing that you need to do. When you start exercising again, you don't want to jump into that 10K right away. Build up to it. And before you start any new exercise regimen, it's a good idea to check with your primary care physician. Make sure there's nothing wrong. Make sure that there's any of those little aches and pains that you have are not a sign of something that could be exacerbated by really getting into a heavy-duty exercise regimen. But if you start off and do a little bit of exercise every day and slowly build up, you can be doing that 10K by the end of the summer easily.
In the wintertime when it snows, people want to get out there and shovel their driveway. And I can think of a handful of people I know, my parents' friends or relatives that went out and they wanted to shovel their driveway and they had a heart attack or a stroke and things like that. Is there any advice you could give people that, when in inclement weather,
There's actually a recommendation from the American Cardiology Association now that says any man over 50 should not shovel snow.
Really?
Yeah, I'm using that with my wife to let her know that.
So not at all.
Exactly. So that they just say that it's just too risky. And that's caused by not only the stress of doing the shoveling, but also the fact that the cold is constricting your arteries and making them narrower at the same time. So that's a new recommendation that was put out by the cardiologists.
Let's talk about stress. You know, many people don't realize that stress can really cause a lot of health issues, and it can cause, you know, weight fluctuations and things like that. Let's delve into that.
Stress is one of the most important things that you can do for your health. And men are definitely not very good at being able to de-stress. So I think that's something that's very important that men need to look at. Their whole mental well-being is something that men are not as good as women at being able to control. So getting in there and trying to de-stress, whether it's something like just having a cookout in the backyard, binging TV shows that aren't really stressful or high intensity, having friends over and having a game night. Those are things that men almost have to schedule into their schedules to say, I'm going to take this break. And then along with that, on weekends, men tend to want to let's get out there and really do some stuff that I've been putting off all week. You need to be able to take that weekend and maybe take a break. Maybe not every weekend, but every now and then you have to take those breaks and really cut down your stress levels.
What are some of the biggest stressors? I mean, what causes men to stress out?
I think the stresses are the same for everybody, and everyone has a different thing that's stressing them. It could be work, it could be family, it could be finances. It could be just my yard doesn't look as good as everyone else's. Everyone can find a reason that they're stressed out of things. I think it's important for each person to kind of look to see what it is that's stressing them and understanding and getting help from family members. You may not notice if you're stressed, but your family may be able to tell you, hey, there's something going on here.
So it's kind of, you want to keep, you know, your exterior people around you, maybe listen to some of their thoughts, because they might look at you and say, you know, I haven't seen you in a while, you look stressed out, or, you know, you look like you have something on your mind or you're upset.
Absolutely. Our friends and family are probably our best barometers for how we're really doing.
Well, before we let you go, Dr. Johar, is there a website, or do you have any final thoughts that you could recommend to our viewers to, you know, to maintain a healthy lifestyle?
Absolutely. Well, one of the great things to go to is something called UHC.com. It has a newsroom, and UHC.com has a lot of information on any of these topics as well as others. So I think that's a great place to start if you're curious about stress, or you're curious about men's health or good diets. You can start there, and it'll steer you to additional sources that can really get you the information you need.
Well, thank you so much for joining us
My
in
pleasure.
CityCorner. We really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having me.
That's our show for today. We'd especially like to thank Stephanie McCreary from Oasis and Dr. Ravi Johar for joining us in studio. We'd like to thank you for watching CityCorner on STL TV. Experience St. Louis.